but it's warmer. Yes, warmer. Thank you, Robin. Making sure that happened tonight. It's warmer, isn't it? Well, you're in t-shirt. Okay. Apologies for absence. None tonight. No. Oh, here's Javeria. Okay. We haven't got any minutes at this moment. Can I remind members of section 106? Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest tonight? Yes, Javed?
In item 9 and 12.
Thanks. Conchita? 9 and 12, yeah. Okay, thank you. Make note of that. We've no business not covered by general exception. Yes. Oh, yes, you're right, David. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So in item 9, as a Hackney Carriage licence holder, there's a scale of fees. It talks about licences. And in 12, there's a request for a fare increase for the Hackney Carriage trade. So those two items I'm declaring interest.
Okay. And Conchita?
The two same items. I'm married to a licence holder, so I'm declaring interest.
Okay. We've nothing under special urgency, no references from committees and other bodies, no recommendations from scrutiny reviews, and no petitions. So we move on to the transformation programme, and I believe you're moving that tonight, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Hazel. I think people get fed up on my voice tonight, so let's give it a go.
Yes, it is your show. A bit.
Yes, it is, yeah. The purpose of this briefing is to note the progress and direction of travel of the transformation programme so far, to agree the projects identified as priorities, to agree the next phase of work up to April 2024 at a cost of up to 368,400 to be funded from the Investor Save reserve to fund the development phase and an initial delivery phase, and to delegate authority to the Transformation Board in consultation with the portfolio holder and Section 151 officer to agree the allocation of funding and any variation to the proposed work plan. Note that a further detailed report, including robust outline business cases and delivery plan, to be submitted to the Executive for approval on May 2024. The background of this is our transformation programme is underpinned by our 2040 vision ambition of creating a modern and innovative council, providing high quality, efficient services that meet the needs of residents and delivers on the vision for Luton. The programme needs to go beyond a savings programme, instead transforming the organisation to be future ready. The discovery phase of the council transformation programme is now complete in a condensed discovery window, reviewing over 160 different options into 30 separate opportunities were identified that would help transform the authority and create a council ready for 2040. The council knows that any transformation of this scale must be a journey, and we won't know all the solutions at the start of the programme. The council accepts that it's also going to be feasible to deliver all 30 projects. It's not going to be feasible to deliver all 30 projects in the first year. Therefore, the transformation team, working with the council's corporate director, DMTs and finance business partners, have conducted a validation and prioritisation exercise. The priority projects were selected to be progressed to the next stage. These were contracts and third-party spend, income generation and traded services, residents experience, neighbourhood working model, passenger transport and building and technical services. The 6 priority projects to be progressed over the next 3 months are listed in paragraph 12. The table on the following pages summarises the one-off investment and ongoing investment that has been identified for each project at this stage, but this is subject to further change as we move through development and into delivery. As we move from discovery to development, the level of assurance will improve and delivery of savings will follow in 24-25. The follow-up report in May 24 will need to provide full details of the delivery plan for each work programme, including detailed financial implications, including any revenue or capital investment required. What resources were required, both internal and external, as well as providing a detailed explanation and assessment of the change programme. Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you very much, Rob. Any questions? Everybody okay with it? Yes, Javid.
Thank you, Chair. On the key risks, the only question I have, there is a risk around continuity of leadership of the programme as David Murray and Mark Purves have both left. Mitigation is we've got Vicky and Kate. Is that will be enough, or do we need to look at additional resource, assuming that Vicky and are already hard pushed with the amount of work they've got?
Okay, which one are you looking at?
So I'm looking at 17 around there. Have we got enough capacity? Because obviously we're asking Vicky and Kate to pick up from David and Murray and Mark Purvis. Do we need to be looking at? Do we need additional? Will we have enough capacity? Because that's identified as a risk. Item 17.
Yeah, I think, Rob, I think I can understand what the question Javid's asking is talking about the change of actually David leaving and Mark leaving and us putting people in to cover those roles. Is there a risk attached to that? David was the acting person into the corporate director for organisational development. So Kate comes in actually with a stronger track record. What we've got is Vicky's acting as the bridge between the team and actually sort of the rest of the organisation. What we're also doing at this stage, as you can see within the paper, talking about a corporate governance team led by myself, Gerard and D-Raj as sponsors, and then actually service directors that are supporting the delivery as well. So what we're doing here is the best of delivering the programme against the pieces of work we were already doing as well. So there's actually additional resource, but it actually talks into what we wanted to do anyway. And then we've got a clarity of path with regards to the programme management office with Human Engine as well to step in to provide support.
Okay, Joe. Sorry, I just couldn't. It's a bit echoey. I don't know why. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. The purpose of this report is to ensure that fees and charges are increased where necessary with the aim of recovering the full cost of providing the service whilst ensuring changes are fair and consistent and ensure inclusivity by offering concessions to the disadvantaged. The background of the report is this is an annual review of fees and charges. Inflation has remained high but has started to fall. However, the council will still experience cost increases which it needs to cover from its charges. The proposal will generate an estimated extra 622,000 in revenue, which will help to offset additional costs such as pay awards for staff who provide these services and inflation costs. The memo of the few key areas, the charge in our community centres are being standardised so customers pay the same price for the same service wherever they go. The charges also differentiate between the type of user with personal and community users, generally paying less than social and commercial users. We also still offering discounts to new community and voluntary groups up to a maximum of 50%. For the cemeteries and crematorium, we've undertaken a detailed benchmarking exercise to help determine our charges. The cost of providing burials and cremations have been affected more than most, and so we are proposing to increase the charge for an adult burial by 4.7% and an adult cremation by 9.8% due to the higher energy costs. However, we also noticed that our charges for direct cremations was much higher than other local providers, and so we're proposing to reduce our charge by £100 from 530 to 430. Under waste services, we need to increase the charges for the garden waste subscription service from £42 to £45 to recover additional costs. Our charge is still lower than other local councils that charge for this service. We are freezing our charges for trade waste recycling collection, but increasing the other trade waste charges in an attempt to encourage more customers to recycle. Currently, only 11% of our customers use our recycling service. The executive recommended to approve the proposed scale of charges to apply from the 1st of April 2024 and note the additional income estimated from the proposed increases in charges, the estimated budget impact within this and the limitations inherent where reviewing the charges. Thank you, Chair.
Bob, are there any questions? No, everyone okay to go forward with the report? Thank you very much. Draft revenue budget and capital programme, Rob.
Yeah. The purpose of this report is to provide a draft revenue budget and capital programme for consultation and comment to enable further consideration of budget executive on the 12th of February so it can be recommended to full council alongside the council tax resolution for approval. The key points of this report is a general fund revenue budget. The national and global economy is highly influenced by far-reaching economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the slowing down of the economy, cost of living crisis, high inflation and interest rates. These factors have had a huge impact on local government finance in general and the financial position of Luton Borough Council in particular. This will continue to be the case in 24-25 as the economy will grow slowly over the short to medium term according to the Office of Budget Responsibility. The provisional finance settlement didn't provide any additional funding to ease the budget pressure, and some councils are already applying for exceptional financial support from the government to avoid issuing the Section 114 notice, and the number of councils issuing Section 114 notice are increasing. The general fund net expenditure has increased by a circle of 10.5 million, around 7%. This is the measure of the extent to which unavoidable cost increases, example pay inflation and demand for services, etc., exceeds savings costs, cost reductions and increases in grant funding. These items are broken down in Appendix 1 to the budget report. This gap necessitates increasing the council tax by a maximum amount permitted 5% before having to go to a referendum, which will generate an additional 7.4 million of income. The ability to increase council tax by 5% combined with prudent financial management has allowed the council to set a balanced budget for 24-25, which includes a deficit recovery plan amounting to 5.3 million to be delivered in 24-25 in order to address the current core budget deficit. However, this will continue to be a challenge as the cost of living crisis, stabilisation of the interest rates and the slowing down of the economy make it difficult to predict precisely what impact it will have on the council finances. The General Fund Capital Programme. The proposed General Fund Capital Programme includes significantly new investments to the council assets and infrastructure, in particular schools and highways, as well as the Stage Bute Street major regeneration project, for which 11 up grant funding of 20 million has been secured, which will create jobs, leisure amenities and over 292 new homes. There's also additional funding for highways, schools, housing, electric charging and temporary accommodation purchase scheme. The capital programme is set out in full Appendix H to the budget report and is also included in the Great Green Book. On the HRA, the government is supporting people in social housing in England with the cost of living by limiting the increase in their rent. Current government policy introduced in February 2019 is to increase rent levels by CPI plus 1% per year. For 24-25, the rent increase is based on government policy, which has a CPI plus 1%. CPI in September 23 was 6.7%. Luton is proposing a rent increase of 7.7%. This is considered later in agenda item number 13. This will ensure the ongoing viability of its 30-year HRA business plan and also enables the council to reinvest in the housing stock and build the additional properties to meet the need of Luton. The schools continue to be funded directly from the dedicated schools grant, which also funds some functions carried out by the council on behalf of the schools. The dedicated schools grant has increased from 167.4 million in 23-24 to 180 million in 23-24. The final amount of this dedicated school grant for 24-25 will change and is dependent on actual pupil numbers and characteristics of those pupils' percentage data. The high need block for 24-25 has already shown up to 0.5 million budget pressures. Work is ongoing to find solutions to deal with these pressures, and this will be updated for the second executive and full council reports. I propose a recommendation set out in report agenda item number 10 on page 77, paragraph 1, recommended A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Are there any questions? No? Happy to approve? Okay. Now move on to the Treasury Management Strategy.
Thank you. Executive and full council are required by legislation to consider and approve strategies for both treasury management and investment every year. The report includes the council's prudential indicators, which are set out each financial year as to ensure the council operates within well-defined limits. These strategies are fundamental for the council's financial health and are important every year, given the key objective in the corporate plan to be a financially sound and efficient council. The council's borrowing was 823.522 million at the 1st of April 2023, and is forecast to be 809.598 million at 31st of March 2024, a decrease of 13.92.4 million during 23-24. This is due to the positive cash flow throughout 23-24, with a requirement to repay a 5 million Public Work and Loan Boards loan and a reduction of a short-term borrowing of around 5 million. The total borrowing for 23-24 includes 12.2 million for Lao. There is a planned heavy schedule of capital investment worth 449 million over the next 3 years, which includes the Stage, Levelling Up Fund project, the dualling of Vauxhall Way and many other projects delivering the Luton's 2040 vision. Borrowing is planned to increase over the same 3 years period by 255 million to 1.079 million from the current forecast as of 1st of April 2024. In order to finance the capital programme, the Council will continue to assess the cheapest form of debt available. It is estimated interest costs will approximately be 62 million over the next 3 years, no matter which form of finance is agreed. The financing cost of borrowing will be offset by interest earned on debenture loans for London Luton Airport Limited and a secured capital loan for Vauxhall Homes Limited, estimated in excess of 126 million over the next 3 years. In view of the scale of borrowing required as part of the strategy and the impact that borrowing is likely to have on the Council's balance sheet, on the financial gearing and on financial risk, it is recommended that when the final business cases for the major investments are ready for approval, this is accompanied by a full review of the annual borrowing strategy requiring the approval of the Executive and full Council. Investment balances at the start of the financial year were 78.37 million, but are expected to decrease to around 40 million by the end of this financial year. Money market funds will be used to maintain liquidity, minimise credit risk and earn an acceptable level of return. The Council has previously raised the majority of long-term borrowing from the Public Works and Loan Boards, and interest rates have risen over the last year or so, and the outlook for the near future is for rates to remain high. The Council may consider to borrow using short-term loans from the Public Work and Loan Boards or other sources, while the rates are higher, and will also continue to investigate the possibility of issuing bonds and similar instruments in order to lower the interest costs and reduce over-reliance on one source of funding in line with the CIPFA code. Executive is recommended to note the Treasury Management Strategy for 24-25 and to forward for scrutiny by the Finance Review Group. The final report is to be considered by Executive on the 12th of February 2024 and include a recommendation to full Council for final approval on 19th of February. I'd just like to draw the attention of members on page 111, paragraph 100, page 253, paragraph 111D, where we're talking about to disinvest in institutions companies that create and sell arms to governments around the world. Thank you very much.
Any questions? No? Everybody okay with it going forward to Council? Thank you. Right, I think we have some people declaring an interest in this report. Tutor, I believe. Okay then, Rob. Yeah.
The Council has received two separate proposals for an increase in the maximum fares to be charged by Hackney carriages licensed in the District of Luton. The normal circumstance is when proposal is received, the licensing service would process that request and then go out to public and trade consultation, and then bring the proposal with the results of the consultation back to the decision-making body to approve or amend. In this case, as the matter is not delegated, then the decision-making body is the Executive. The last Hackney carriage fare increase was in October 2020. On this occasion, two proposals have been received, and despite attempts from the licensing services to get the proposers to agree on one proposal, this has not been possible. So following legal advice, the matter is brought to the Executive to make a decision on how to proceed. Whilst there is a significant amount of detail for the different rates and proposals for each submission, in short, the main details of the two proposals listed as option A and option B in the report are as follows. Option A is a proposal submitted by an individual Hackney carriage proprietor, and this option outlines a higher rate of increase in shorter distance journeys from London Luton Airport and proposes excess passenger fees to be applied for more than 3 passengers. Option B is a proposal submitted by Hackney Carriage Association representing their membership and outlines a higher increase for longer journeys from London Luton Airport and excess passenger fee for more than 4 passengers. This proposal is also includes a new charge of £10 as an extra charge for assisting customers with removals. It should be noted that the standard passenger compartment in a TX old style black cab is 5 passengers. LEVC Electric and Mercedes Vito is 6 passengers. The aim is to progress this matter so that it can be progressed to undertake consultation on one of these proposals. It should be noted that in selecting a proposal, then with the requirements under Section 65 Local Government Miscellaneous Provision Act 1976 provides that consultation will be undertaken with the trade and public for a period to no less than 14 days and is required to place a public notice. Therefore, any person aggrieved with the decision to progress one of these competing proposals would have the opportunity to make a representation with regards to the proposals, and that representation could be then the matter will be brought back to the executive within 2 months to agree with or without modifications. The executive therefore recommended to select one of the 2 proposals to progress to formal public consultation. There is an option which is not recommended, in which both proposals are progressed to consultation. However, this would be very complex, confusing for the public, and carries a risk that if neither proposal received representations, and both could be considered as approved by virtue of the Act, and therefore would be 2 conflicting tables of fares and places. We do have the licensing team here to answer any questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, it's open for questions now from members. No questions? Everybody clear on the decision? Is there a recommendation?
Yeah.
James?
Yeah.
I thought,
The recommendation for the executive.
yeah. There isn't a recommendation. You have to decide. Okay.
I'll move we go out on consultation on option B, Chair.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any alternative recommendation, Tamina?
I prefer option A. I'd like to recommend option A.
Right. Okay. So, are we going to have a vote on that? Yes. Do we want a discussion and explain your reasons why you're recommending those? Maybe on option A first, Tamina?
It appears to me, I mean, there is going to be a fare increase, but it appears to me that option A is the cheaper option for the public. And I think the option B is, apart from in one section, it's suggesting higher rates. I'd rather do a slower change of fare rather than to go towards option B, which I think is a greater shift in terms of the change upwards. So my preference is option A.
Okay, and James, option, sorry, Tom moved it, didn't he? Yes.
Yeah, the reason I'm suggesting option B is that option A, the way I understand it, is just one operator from the airport and nobody else. Option B is all the other operators in the town. And unless I've got that wrong, and I thought it'd been better that we talked to all the operators in the town instead of just the one from the airport.
There isn't sorry, may I, Hazel? There isn't a huge amount of difference between it. And no, I can imagine that the majority would want a higher fare because it goes in their pocket at the end of the day. So I'm just looking at it as an incremental, slower step towards increased fares, which will probably come in the future. But you've got to understand who's putting proposal B and the vested interest there.
I understand that perfectly, but I'd thought talking to the larger number was the most sensible way forward instead of just one private operator. Yeah.
It is a pity there couldn't be a negotiated settlement. That would have been the best way forward. But obviously, if that isn't doable, we have 2 options before us. Can I have hands up for those supporting option A, please? 2, thank you. And those supporting option B? 2025. So it's option B that will go forward. Okay, thank you very much, members, for that. Do we want to get our colleagues back in? And we have the draft HRA, Tom.
Chair, you see the figures in front of you. I intensely dislike recommending a rent rise at this level. But if we don't recommend it, it will drastically affect the capital programme. What you have got in the capital programme, in the general fund capital programme, is up to 3 million for temporary accommodation next year. I'll be very surprised if we come in under 3 million. Every other council in the country is suffering massively, and it doesn't matter what political persuasion they are now. It seems Tory, Liberal, Labour, they're all suffering because of the temporary accommodation costs what are falling on them. We're recommending 7.7, which is the government's recommendation. It's been the hardest rent setting round I've ever gone through, because normally we'd have done this in December, but we've had no agreement at all to about 10 days ago. What the government has done is put the costs on us for some of their decisions on housing, which we don't necessarily agree with. One of those costs is we are now going to have a fire safety manager built into the HRA. We're going to have a building safety manager built into the HRA as well. What you will also find in the HRA, I put an amount there for a policy officer. The idea of that policy officer is something we haven't got time to do at the moment. There's lots of grants available outside the council. You see what grants we can get in, what can alleviate some of this rent rise. I will say thank you to a group of members we've had going around looking at shelter schemes at the start of the 12 months have just come through, because they identified some savings on service charges. So we are going to freeze the service charges in all shelter schemes this year. We're going to give a lot of money back to the people that live in the shelter schemes, also in partnership with public health. In some of the larger shelter schemes, we're going to put physio rooms into there. So by putting those physio rooms in, we can help save public health money and NHS money by doing that. It's ultra important we keep the capital programme going. That's the only thing that convinced me to go for this rent rise. Because we've got so many people in temporary accommodation, hotel rooms and everything else. The only way, we're never going to be able to build our way out of all of it, but what it can do is alleviate some of the problems we've got. The government's not helping us. No one's helping. We're going to have to look after ourselves. I do hope the Treasury Department of the council comes up with a way we can go out and buy more properties. I've been asking for it for 2.5, 3 years and it's still not come forward, but we need it desperately because the tax money finishes this year. So we're not going to be able to use that tax money to go out and buy that half a dozen, month we've been buying. So we need that. We need an alternative desperately. To say the service charges outside the shelter schemes will go up to the actual cost of the service charge, which is what we've been working towards for the last 3-4 years. But I'm going to ask another group of members to go around and check on everything we're doing in service charges to make sure we are giving value for money. A lot of the problems, what you're seeing with other councils where Section 114 notices are being served, is because they owe a large debt to housing, because of housing services, what have been general fund has been taking money what should have been in housing and they're having to pay it back. We're not in that position in Luton because we've always kept an eye on what was in the general fund and what was in the HRA. I believe the rise in the service charges, some of it, if we look at it very, very closely, penny for penny and value for money, this time next year, we may be able to cut those service charges as well. But we need someone with the time to go and look at every single one of them and how it can work. I said about the policy officer, the traveller site going up the same amount. leaseholders going up the same amount. One of the biggest problems we've got is during the next year, a lot of people what are in receipt of housing benefit will transfer over to universal credit. Now, I'm sure every one of you is aware that the first tranches what went over from housing benefit to universal credit resulted in a 12% rise in our rent arrears in the town. So also into the HRA this year, we've built a fund where we can help the worst off cases. That it's ultra important that is delivered by the housing officers and the social workers rather than everybody just being able to grab it and not pay the rent. So it's going to be determined by the housing officers and the social workers to decide which people need it the most. It's not a massive amount, but it's in there. So it's fees on shelter schemes, 7.7%, which I don't like. I'm quite open. I mean, the officers know I don't like it, but I've been left with no option to do it because of the effect it would have on the capital programme. Keep the capital programme going. And the next one, what you'll see in there is £200,000 at the bottom of the page for carbon reduction. That 200,000 is extra on top of everything what's already in the HRA. And that is for carbon reduction in our own housing. We already do massive amounts, but that 200 grand will go a long way to a target what we've given ourselves, where all our properties are at Band C at the moment. It would be nice if in 5 years' time someone can sit here and say, all council properties in Luton are at Band B. But I believe it goes against the 7.7. It's a government recommendation. It goes against Luton 2040. But I believe with all the other pressures we've got on us, there's no other option but to go for it. So I'll move the recommendations as outlined, Chair.
Yeah, there's a typo, Hazel, at the sentence at the very top of page 320 ends with the word and. I suspect the missing word is leaseholders, but it'd be good to get that confirmed.
The only question that the tenants board the other day was over the leaseholder charges. Everything else they agreed with. So that's the reason we come up. I'm going to ask a group of members, I don't care which party from, to go through all our leasehold charges, penny for penny, to see if we've got value for money.
Is that confirmation that the missing word is leaseholders?